Today I wanted to do something a little different for the end of the year. I wanted to take a look back to my first year of doing the BlackTrack and revisit some of the grades I gave the movies that year after the channel's reboot. Some of you may not have realized it, but I started my channel all the way back in 2017, but didn't start doing the BlackTrack until 2019. That's why my Lowdown Dirty Shame and Boys in the Hood videos seem so much older than the other videos I've done. I took a 2-year break to not only improve my quality and audio, but also to get better at editing and actually learning how to use Photoshop, because my early stuff was janky. That's the best way to describe it. So excluding those first 2 movies, I'll be discussing 5 movies from Lean On Me to Juice, and going into more detail about how I decide which grade each movie gets. I read all of the comments you guys post on the videos, and I definitely take every opinion to heart when it comes to these movies. At the end of the day, everybody views every movie differently. What I expect out of a movie is always going to be different than what somebody else expects, which is the whole reason I started doing the BlackTrack in the first place, to spark conversation about these movies that almost never get any recognition. I say all that to say that I love all the comments and conversations when it comes to these movies, and definitely don't expect everybody to agree with me, so keep them coming. I'm definitely open to new perspectives, and who knows, some of these movies may even get updated grades. Without further delay, let's get to the 5 BlackTrack movies revisited for year 1.
Too complex, much too complex, too complex, much too complex.
Let's start with the very first movie of the channel's reboot. One thing to remember about my channel is that I review the movies for how good they hold up in the current year, and not the year they were released. People tend to think about how much they liked the movie when they were young, and have a rose-colored view about how good that movie holds up. That's how I felt about Lean On Me. I loved that movie when I was younger, and believed it to be one of the best movies ever made. Then I watched it again for the channel, and well, as I said in the video, it's not bad, just very average. I quickly realized that my love for Lean On Me is mostly because of the moments. The movie is classic scenes surrounded by a basic movie. For instance, everybody loves the guy singing in the bathroom, and I learned this school song before I learned my own high school song, so that speaks to its impact. Everybody loves Sam's, or more accurately, how much Joe Clark screams his name, so much so that very few people even know his real name is Jermaine Hopkins, despite him doing more movies after this, like Juice. But nobody will ever know him as Steel. He'll always be Sam's. Aside from those highlights, when watching the movie as an adult, you quickly realize that this movie was kind of a vanity project for the real Joe Clark, which is fine, because it's a well-made movie. Just don't take anything in it as fact. I really wanted to put this on the list because when I posted the BlackTrack, I had a misunderstanding about why Miss Barrett was so mad at Joe Clark. I played up her anger for comedy because I didn't realize that one of the guys put out of the school in the beginning was her son. I don't know if I just forgot that fact or what, but it does fundamentally change how the movie is viewed if you know that going in. It gives the conflict some more dimension than just an angry woman giving Joe Clark hell for no reason. It asks the question of if criminals can be rehabilitated. Does knowing that change how I feel about the movie? Not at all. Even knowing that, the movie still doesn't do a whole lot with it. So my grade for Lean On Me remains a C+.
Too complex, much too complex, too complex, much too complex.
Nostalgia is a funny thing. I remember begging my mother to take me to see the Meteor Man when I was a kid from the moment the commercial hit the TV. Actually, I take that back. Back then, the music videos for the soundtrack would sometimes hit before the trailer. So from the moment I saw a black superhero in the It's For You music video by Shanice, I was all in. The movie comes out, I go see it, and at the time, it was the single greatest thing I had ever seen on the big screen. I bought the VHS, I used to draw the Meteor Man all the time, and I constantly imagined what they would do with a sequel that never came. But fast forward to 2021, to an adult me, it's just a movie. An extremely flawed movie at that. While I reviewed it, all the stuff that didn't matter to me as a kid immediately jumped out as glaring flaws. Meteor Man being ridiculously overpowered was cool to me in 1993 because I just wanted to see the cool special effects. But now I'm like, wow, they didn't even bother to give him unique powers to set him apart from Superman. The flaws in the story didn't even matter to younger me because it was all a means to an end, just filler to get to the next action scene. But older me is like, How is nobody seeing him using his powers in public? This would be all over Twitter. But I think that was the problem with my review. I approached it like this was a movie made for the adult me, where in reality, it was a kids movie from top to bottom. It clearly was made to take advantage of potential merchandise options and as a promotional vehicle for the musical group Another Bad Creation, who coincidentally had just released a new album and were marketed to kids also. When you watch it with that in mind, you start to see why the movie was made the way it was made. The humor is silly and somewhat whimsical because that's the kind of humor that kids like. It's got an anti-drug message because things like that and the DARE program were pushed to kids heavy in the 80s and 90s. When you look at it deep down, every single thing about it was done with kids in mind. So because of that, I should have graded it on a little bit of a curve and not by the standards of your everyday superhero movie. Some other kid can see it now and still think it's the greatest thing they've ever seen, just like I did in 1993. So for the Meteor Man, I'm upgrading it to a C-, because even though I no longer think it's as great a movie as it was when I first saw it, the movie is also no longer for my age group.
Too complex, much too complex, too complex, much too complex.
Let me first start by saying that I love the movie Juice. It's one of those movies that when it comes on TV, I have to stop right there and watch it. It's weird because it doesn't have many quotables or real standout scenes, but somehow it just resonates with me. I think it came around at a time in my life when I was most impressionable, 1 year before the Meteor Man, ironically. So I think that's why I was so disappointed when I did research for the movie and learned that it could have been a far different, and some would say much better movie than what we got. So much of Tupac's story arc was left on the table to the point where it actually did a disservice to his character. It's a credit to his acting ability that he managed to pull off an iconic performance despite all of that. I think when I did the BlackTrack, I was so caught up in my disappointment with the omissions that I forgot to look at what was actually there and what we actually did get. I still feel like the story and pacing is disjointed, and some stuff could have been either reshuffled or removed completely. But I didn't spend enough time appreciating the things that we did get, like the atmosphere. The movie does a great job of capturing the feeling of being in the neighborhood the film takes place in, especially in the nighttime scenes. Also, the score, not the soundtrack, two different things, really magnified the emotions felt in the later scenes. Bottom line, I should have put my feelings about the missing scenes aside so that I could appreciate all the things the movie did get right and just how influential Juice really is. So because of that, I'm changing my grade for Juice from a C to a B-. It's not without its problems, but it still tells a timeless story regardless of what could have been.
Too complex, much too complex, too complex, much too complex.
Boy, I got a little pushback with this one, on and offline. The thing about New Jersey Drive is that I had never seen it up until my BlackTrack video. Those type of videos are always challenging because it's impossible to put myself in the shoes of people who grew up with the movie. So I'm forced to judge it with new eyes and no attachments to the material. It always comes up in good black movie conversations though, so let's look at it again. First and foremost, anybody who claims that New Jersey Drive isn't a Juice knockoff is full of shit. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Most movies have some kind of inspiration and use a bit of imitation. Yep, even some of your favorites. But as long as you do enough to distance yourself from its inspirations, most people will forgive you for it. I actually do think New Jersey Drive did plenty to distance itself from Juice, but it still didn't end up that great to me. As for the plot, what plot? I challenge anybody who feels this movie is a classic to break down the story for me. I watched it again for this video and still don't know what the central narrative is. I know I make a joke sometimes about some movies just being random scenes thrown together, but New Jersey Drive is the poster child for that. It goes out of its way to make you not care about anybody in it, and so many story threads go nowhere. Midget's family member tries to steal from Jason and gets caught? Yeah, nothing happens with that. We never even see that dude again. Midget starts losing his mind on the rooftops? Well, that goes nowhere. He's back to being normal in the next scenes. Guy in jail gives Jason a veiled threat about Midget? You guessed it, nothing happens. Midget actually dies from his own stupidity. Guy tries to kill Jason and fails? Well, didn't get me this time. Might as well just give up and never try again. Maybe I'm missing the point, and New Jersey Drive is less about the story and more about the characters. I mean, it could be, but once again, none of them truly stand out to me. Roger Ebert himself was even high on the film, calling the performances natural and realistic. I don't think he realized that the actors weren't really working with scripted dialogue though. They were just talking like they regularly would, and it was like somebody just happened to be there with the camera. I think the fact that it didn't even make half of its $5 million budget back kinda speaks for itself. The only reason I gave it a D- instead of an F is because for a small independent film, I really did like the camera work. But the movie itself, it's safe to say, watching it 3 times is enough for me, and I definitely don't consider it a classic, not even a cult one.
Too complex, much too complex, too complex, much too complex.
House Party 2 is easily the most disagreed about grade on this channel. It's also, unfortunately, my most viewed video on the entire channel. I say unfortunately because when I look back at it, I hate everything about it, from the creative standpoint anyway. The growing pains were evident. The video quality was bad, mostly because I was still using my phone at the time, but also because I forgot to flip the image in post, and also forgot to do color correction. The audio was also bad, and I forgot some of the titles. I also forgot to close my room window. Everything that could have gone wrong with the production of that video went wrong, and it makes me wish that one of my more recent videos were the most viewed. But nobody seemed to care, so maybe I'm just nitpicking. Anyway, as far as the movie goes, who knew that House Party 2 was so beloved? I certainly didn't. I truly was of the impression that everybody thought it was the worst out of the original trilogy, but to my surprise, a ton of people really liked this movie. For context, I love House Party 1. The movie is just pure fun, and that's mostly a result of the comedy never really missing. I put it on the same level of those other non-black movies that get so much praise, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Breakfast Club, and Weird Science. It's a certified classic, whose mood and atmosphere really haven't been replicated. As a matter of fact, I put it above those movies mentioned, because none of those movies have the top-notch dancing and music in it that House Party does. Fast forward to House Party 2. Let's go down my personal checklist of things that are not like the original. The comedy. House Party 2 just isn't that funny to me. I don't know what happened. Maybe different writers since it was a different director, but I can't think of a single line in House Party 2 that is a classic funny line or that I've repeated since its release. Never has a movie failed so flat in the funny department from its predecessor than House Party 2. It took itself way too seriously, and the little bit of comedy that is there is that Looney Tunes slapstick that I mentioned in my video. Next, the music and the dancing. Well, I'm happy to say that the music is actually on point, and I own the soundtrack for several years. The dancing though, well, there's not much there to talk about. There's a half-assed dance-off to try to copy off the first movie, but it doesn't even really dedicate a ton of time to it, and it includes a random girl who we don't even know, all because they felt like they had to include this scene. And the biggest sin of all is probably the story. Like I said, the first House Party didn't take itself too seriously, and it was better for it. House Party 2, however, beat you over the head with its black man and college themes. It just feels like it forgot to be fun this time around, and a movie with the name House Party should not be compared to other college movies like Higher Learning. Basically, this just didn't feel like a house party movie to me. It reused a good bit of the characters, but kind of forgot what made those characters great in the first place. I know people don't like the third movie as much as I do, but let's compare notes to the first movie. House Party 3 doesn't take itself too seriously. Check. Has actually funny comedy with great one-liners. Check. Great music and dancing. Can't really give it that one, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. To me, House Party 3 is the continuation of the first movie that I expected, and if you look at all 3 as a whole, the second movie stands out like a sore thumb, and not for good reasons. I just like House Party 3 a lot more, mainly because it's just funnier. I just can't see myself changing the grade for House Party 2 from a D+, even after watching it again. But at least now I know that y'all have put me on notice that I'm in the minority with that opinion. And that's it. 5 movies revisited for the year 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if so, I'll try to do it again next year. Until then, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends about my channel. And until next time, I'll holla at you.